Hey guys, Flown from Off to Lens here, and today we're going to do something a bit different. So a few days ago I've posted a video, a short documentary, bespoke letterpress, and what I want to do with this video is to do a cinematography breakdown and a behind the scenes. So I've been asked a few questions on how we shot it, what happened during the shoot, the gear that we use. So what I want to talk about today is why we decided to shoot the whole thing on the Contax Zeiss lenses, why we shoot with practical and natural light only, as well as the challenges and the general shooting experience of it. So hopefully this is something that you can use for future shoots as well. Before I start, don't forget to subscribe to see more videos like this one, and let's get into it. So before we actually start diving into it, let me just explain why we did this short documentary. So my wife, Ems, she's always been into letterpress. We've done a previous doco years ago together. That was actually our first. And she was a fan of Bespoke's work for quite a while. We try every year to do a few passion projects, so this is one of them. So we reached out to Alicia saying that if she was keen to do a doco with her, and she was, but the challenge was to actually find a time. So that was the first big challenge. I think it actually took 3 months from the time that we emailed to the time that we actually shot it. Obviously getting stuck in Antarctica didn't help at all. The second challenge was that we only had one day. That was due to her schedule, that was due to COVID, that was due to our schedule as well. So we had only one day, and it was an hour and a half from our place. So we had to spend 3 hours of that day in a car. Now just quickly talking about gear, we used the BMPCC 6K obviously, and we decided to shoot, I decided to shoot the whole thing on a Contax Zeiss. There were a few reasons behind this. First is because I knew that we would have control over the whole place, that we were only in one location, so I had time to change the lenses. I also wanted to use the full kit, so the 4 lenses, the 18mm f4, the 28 2.8, the 51.4, the 85 2.8, and they're all mm. And there was a cool thing as well. What I wanted to do is, because the machinery that we were filming, the letterpress machines, were from the 70s, so I thought it would be cool to shoot with lenses that were from that era as well. So having lenses that are roughly from the 70s and 80s and shooting that kind of content kind of makes sense for me. And I knew that I wanted that video to be a bit warm, to have a nice kind of organic feeling. So that's why I decided to use them. For monitor, I had the Small HD 7-inch, which was very helpful. And for audio, I had the Sennheiser, which is the one that I'm using here, the MKE 600 for audio. I had a follow focus tilter, and that's about it. So what I want to do for this cinematography breakdown, I'm going to pull some frames from the video that each represent an aspect or a portion of or sequence, if you will, of the actual video. And I'm just going to talk about what happened in a frame, how we got that shot, the challenges, the gear that we use, how we framed, the lighting condition, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to do this in Photoshop so you can follow with me, and let's get into it. Okay, so now we are in Photoshop. So this is the first frame that I'm going to use. This is to actually show you the store where it happened. So you can see the entrance here. The store actually goes all the way up to here. You can see the big windows on the sides with lots of people, lots of cars that will play quite a big part in a shoot later. So now I'm going to go inside to give you an idea of what it looked like. Obviously you've seen the video maybe. So this is one of the, I think it's the first shot actually that I've used. This was inside. This is a store. As you can see, it's super bright. I did bring some lights, but when I saw this I knew that I could do without the lights. So I told them maybe we should just shoot this with natural light. There's a nice feeling that will save us time, that will save us moving things around. So that's what we did. And the light was coming from the window here. As you can see, it was quite harsh. It was reflecting on the bottom here, which I had to be careful with. I shot this with the 18 f4. Normally f4 could be an issue in certain situations, but for this I actually shot everything from f4 to f16. Everything is in focus. If you can see here, the table is in focus. This is in focus, in here as well. This is a focus. Everything is pretty much in focus, and that's fine. That's the look that I wanted. I was more careful about highlights. One thing that was kind of tricky, like I was saying, is there were a lot of cars here and people coming here. so there was a lot of movement in the frame, so I had to wait for the frame to be clear. I also had to wait for people to go away from the frame. I didn't have talent releases with me, so I had to be mindful of that, people not crossing the frame. I shot all of this on tripod, and the challenge with that was that obviously I was taking a little bit of room, but I was okay. I was just trying to find good angles, you know, like trying to line up this and have the eye going here. I shot left to right. There was a lot of line in this, the table, everything. So I was trying to find kind of like a pleasing, balanced way to frame this. It was shot so on the 18mm, as I said. I didn't use any ND. The cars obviously were an issue, but also the clouds. So in here you can see the sky here. There were quite a few clouds in the morning, and he actually kind of casted like different shadows around here, so I had to wait to get a clean shot so it wouldn't move all the time. I think I took 3 shots of this actual framing here, and that's the last one that I did, I think, and so that was a good one. Next, so these, I already marked this. This is because I wanted to show you guys how the light reflected on here. As you can see, this was quite bright. The light was just coming here from the right. So what I wanted to do with this is to get cutaway shots, details. And for these ones, since the paper was really bright, I just had to expose for the actual paper. I shot again from left to right. You can see this is really bright here. I spent a lot of time framing these shots. There's a few of them, and I thought it would be a good way to show the end product, because obviously when we're shooting letterpress you show the process, but actually seeing it on the shelf, and it's such a beautiful store. I spent a lot of time on this. I think I spent about an hour and a half filming just detail shots of that. Again, tripod. I shot most of them on 28mm 2.8 and on 51.4. This is the 50mm 1.4, and it worked really well. I was very careful again with the line, and always have that gradient going from light to shadow. Okay, let's get into the next one. So this is the main shots, one of the main shots of Alicia on the letterpress. This is next to the studio. There's actually a big window here that separates the 2 rooms. And the challenge, and I think it was probably the biggest challenge in this shoot, was that the practical lights above us on this side and this side were tungsten as compared to the daylight that was shining this way. So it means that we had different color temperature and different intensity. So we had to kind of like pick one or the other for white balance, but I decided to shoot 5600 because it was the most abundant natural light that was coming from that side. And what I had to do was actually expose for her. So you see that kind of soft light correctly exposed. You can see a bit of shadow on her face here, which I kind of like that ratio. What I had to do though in post is lift those shadows, because obviously I was exposing for this, and it was a little bit too bright, but it turned out okay. For the composition, I decided to put the action right in the center, which is her hands coming in and out of the machinery, and she was sometimes going from left to right of the frame as well, so that helped. All the machines were making quite a bit of noise as well. This is like a 1.5 to 2 ton machine, so every time she was like printing, the machines would actually make the tripod vibrate, and even when I was holding the camera, I could see myself just like shaking. So I had to use the shots that weren't too much shaky, you know, like too distracting, if you will. But I stabilized quite a few in post, actually, even the still tripod shot, just to get rid of that weird kind of like vibration. But in the end, it was okay. But yeah, definitely that difference between tungsten and natural light was quite hard. Again, didn't use any ND filters. I think this one I was still on 28mm, which is the one that I use for, let's say, 60% of the video. Now let's get to the next frame. So this one is actually the same sequence as the one just before. You can see how soft the natural like light is, which I love. You can see on her neck going to her cheek here, so like a nice contrast, like a nice, we're going into the shadows quite softly here, and I really like that. I shot a lot from this angle because I didn't want to shoot anyone in the shop on the right here. on the other side. I also didn't have enough room to actually squeeze from the between the window and the actual letterpress machine, so that's why most of the video is shot again from left to right. Alicia did the same action a few times. I shot the whole process from different angle, mostly again with a 28, and I shot wide open because I wanted the machine or her to stand out, especially from a shot from the back like this. I kind of knew I had this idea that I wanted to open the video with this frame, you know, from the back like this, centered. I shot wide open. I think it's probably like 2.8 or 3. You can see that the light here is out of focus. This is going out of focus. This is out of focus. Only her and one part of the machine here is actually in focus. But I was quite happy with this frame. I just had to be careful not to overexpose this part here. And again, same problem, tungsten light, natural light from this angle. So again, exposed for this part, and I think it turned out pretty well. Now let's get into the next frame. So this is the frame where you can see the challenges that we had. First, in terms of like light purely, this is quite bright, but I needed to show her face. Like she's the subject of the video. But you can see on this shot why I didn't choose to shoot this way often. You can see here that I had to expose for her face, obviously, but that meant that I lost quite a bit of details on the highlights here on the left, which didn't really bother me because the whole aspect of this video, the whole like mood is kind of bright and warm, so that didn't really bother me. So the Contax actually did a pretty good job maintaining contrast, even like facing direct sun and direct bright light like that. I shot this at wide open 2.8. You can see that this is out of focus, this portion is out of focus, this as well. There's only a very thin line here, and obviously that part that's in focus. If I had more time, obviously I would have liked to remove this, for example, maybe put a diffusion sheet all behind there to have something more pleasing. We had a person here, that wasn't ideal, but she was working there, so we kind of had to deal with that. I was shooting this handheld because there was a lot of action happening. I didn't want the frame to be too still. I wanted to be nimble. I didn't want to be restricted when I was filming this. I wanted to kind of like come close to her face as well when I wanted to, and I wanted her again to stand out. One thing that I just noticed actually is that the reflection on here on the iMac, I think it's an iMac, of my tripod, just here, that I wasn't using because I was shooting handheld. But yeah, that's another good reason, I guess. You know, I didn't even notice while I was editing or watching it. I don't know if any of you did, but here you go, tripod in shot. It's just the way it happens. And yeah, I think I was really happy with this one. Obviously, like, yeah, it's a bit blown out, a bit clipped, but I love the look. And I was shooting shadow side for this one and exposing for the shadows, and I think I retained quite a lot of information. And obviously, compared to, like, let's say this frame, you can see how you can have a lot of colors here. It's quite warm, and as soon as you got here, then you kind of lose all of that. But that's just, you know, I had to pick either shadows or light, and I needed her to be well exposed. The next one, this is one of my favorite, it's probably my favorite frame from the video, even though it had nothing to do with the actual letterpress machineries and the workshop and the store. But yeah, I just really like this shot. Again, no added light, and just a natural light coming from the windows outside. There's big windows here. I turned the practicals off from the roof. Turn them off because they had, again, a tungsten kind of like different light. I did like that the way the room was kind of like the way the computer was positioned here in her seat, so I knew that I would be shooting like her this way anyway. This was the wide, and that's the first shot of the sequence that I shot. I framed this to keep a balance between all the rectangle and square shape. Like you can see, like this window is square, this is square, rectangle, rectangle, rectangle. So I think I didn't move a lot of things around. I got rid of a few things around here. We moved that here so it would be in frame, and yeah, I put her again slightly off centered, but again, I kind of like the light from outside and from the iMac giving this little edge here and here, acting like as a edge light, you know, like backlights on the seat here as well, and slightly on her face from the computer. So yeah, I was quite pleased with that. We only had like, I think we had 20 minutes to do this scene, because we had to go for sunset to capture some sunset shots. So yeah, this was the wide, and that's the best I could do with the time, but I was quite pleased. This is the close-up. So that was shot on a 50mm Contax 1.4. I think I shot at f2 because, as you can see, there are a lot of boxes here. It's a little bit messy, but I actually didn't mind because this was quite warm, and it kind of added something to the frame, and really like kind of detached her from the frame as well. So I really like that. I was really happy with the ratio, the light like here on her face, and just having a bit of like light here, kind of like just the roll off is really nice. And yeah, I was really happy with that. That's one of my favorite shots as far as light goes. And you can even see here that I told Alicia to brighten her iMac screen so we could have a bit of highlight. So that's what I did. And the next show, which is actually the same room, much earlier during the day. So that was the only room that we could shoot with the machines downstairs making a lot of noise constantly, so that wasn't an option. We also only had 1 hour, so we removed some boxes in here that were here, I think, and we put that kind of like prettier items. We cleaned the top of that too. We put this up to have a nice kind of background. We added some pillars here. I really wish that the room wasn't white or off-white like this. It would have been more interesting. You can see a bit of a shadow here, which I'm not a big fan of. But the light on her face, again, all natural. I didn't even use like a bounce. I didn't use any reflector or diffusion or anything like that, just purely natural light. And yeah, Ems was just sitting next to me here behind, asking the questions, and I was just making sure that everything was going okay. I used a Sennheiser on a boom that was kind of just right here, pointing at her chest or just in front of her chin, and the sound was okay as well. I had this on a boom arm that was coming this way, just slightly left, and that was it. Just a camera, the pocket on a tripod. Still, I would have liked to spend more time maybe on this, but I didn't have the option, and at that point I wasn't sure if I was actually using the footage for like of the interview in the video, but I always try in documentary shoots to actually frame it as nice as I can with the time that I have, just in case I need to use it. And I'm actually glad that I did for this shoot, because I ended up using it a lot since we didn't have a lot of supporting footage. So yeah, so I really love shooting this doco, and I'm really happy with the Contax Zeiss. They were kind of fun to shoot with. Using primes on a pocket is always fun. If I had to do this again, maybe I would take 2 days, you know, by the time we get to know the location, because we've never been there. By the time you set up things, you think about shots, a day goes really quickly, and we didn't have a lot of time. I would have liked to get more shots of the letterpress themselves, just the machines, more shots of Alicia's face, more close-ups. I wish I had used the 85 a bit more, but it's 85, you know, on a pocket, it's not stabilized and gives you like 120 or something like that. It's not ideal, but overall I'm really happy, and Alicia loved the documentary, and that's the most important thing for us. So that's about it. So hopefully you've learned something from this. If that's the format, like a video style that you want me, the cinematography breakdown, I can pretty much do this on any documentary or commercial shoot that we do, or anything else. So let me know in the comments if that's something that you're interested in, and hope you've enjoyed this. I'll try to make it a regular thing, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.